Hi, my name is Susan Heald. I'm the textile conservator at the National Museum of the American Indian in Washington, D.C., and I'd like to share with you some tips and tricks for surface cleaning textiles and garments. So I want to talk a little bit about vacuum cleaners. There's some important things to consider when choosing a vacuum cleaner. You want to make sure you have a really good filter. The HEPA filter, which is a high efficiency particulate air, that's really sold with most industrial vacuum cleaners like this Neilfis, which is kind of a museum standard. You want to make sure you have some way of controlling your suction, because if you have too much suction, you're going to likely suck up parts of your object. What's nice about these is you can turn it on, and this variable speed controller rheostat will control the suction just by turning the knob here. And the HEPA filters are replaceable. There's also a cotton flannel filter inside, and then you have the bag down there. They are expensive, but perhaps it's something you can write into a grant. The variable speed control is the most important part. If you are electrically clever, you can also buy a variable speed controller rheostat that you can use with a regular vacuum, but work with someone who knows what they're doing. So next I wanted to talk about methods of cleaning and some of the tools that I like to use. This is one of my favorite. This is the upholstery brush attachment. This is from a rainbow vacuum that I've had in the lab for, I don't know, probably 20 years. I really like this type of attachment for larger flat surfaces. It has bristles here underneath, these kind of hard synthetic bristles, and I've covered these guys up with, this is a Teflon coated fiberglass fabric. They sell it in stores as kind of like a baking sheet, so you can have easy cleanup. This is fairly thin. I think this is an industrial version. Another option is to use a piece of Tyvek. This is a stiff Tyvek. A lot of museums have this in stock, or you could also use a lot of envelopes. You get envelopes in the mail that are made of this, so you could just take a scrap from an envelope. And I tape it on the inside, and I have it come over those hard bristles, and I tape it on the outside. I am going to set up to vacuum this piece of velveteen, which has a lot of different kinds of soil on it. So I have this so that the pile is going in this direction. So when I'm working with this, I'm going to vacuum in this direction. And there are methods of screens and traps that will help you to not remove too much soiling, or to know what kind of soiling you're removing. This is something that's commonly used. It's a piece of insect screening. It's PVC or vinyl coated fiberglass fabric. It's from the hardware store, and the edges are covered. These edges are covered with a soft Tyvek. This has just been cut and machine stitched on, but you want to make sure you cover the edges. In a pinch, you could use some type of tape. And the one thing you need to be aware of is that after a while, the vinyl can break down. And if your vinyl starts breaking down, some of that vinyl can transfer. It gets kind of gray, and it can transfer to your object. So you want to make sure you're using a newer type of screen, and one that hasn't been in a window before, so get it fresh from the hardware store. You can place this over top of your textile. And then my favorite vacuum tool. I always try to put the hose over my shoulder. Oh, the other thing I forgot to mention, I modified this upholstery brush by drilling a hole in the top. So I can also adjust the suction just by putting my finger over the hole. And you can also adjust the suction by the angle of the head. So if I were going to vacuum through the screen, I would just go in a methodical, across the surface of the textile, in the direction of the pile, even though I'm not directly touching the pile. I need to go down like this. I gotta move to the next section, and just gently go over the whole surface. So this is good for getting, you can get lots of fine particulate out because of the size of the screen, but what you're not going to get out are those long fibers. So on this, for instance, on this textile, so in this text we have little bits of feathers and threads and things that are kind of extraneous, so you're definitely not going to remove that type of soiling with the screen. So sometimes I will vacuum directly with this, depending on the condition of the textile. I might vacuum directly with this attachment, but before I do that, I like to put a trap over the surface of the nozzle. So there's several things you can use. Some people use them. This is just a cotton cheesecloth. These are not museum objects, clearly. So you can use a rubber band or a hair tie, and then you would put this over the surface, over the nozzle. So it's a bit of a tight fit. Actually, that fits pretty tightly. But another type of fabric I like to use, this has a nice open weave, so you're going to trap some things, but not everything. So that's the cheesecloth. This is a piece of polyester organza. It's fairly open weave. You can find this in the bridal section of fabric stores like Joann's Fabrics. And I like it because it's a little finer. You catch more stuff. So there's two reasons to use this. One is in case you inadvertently vacuum up parts of the object. It's only going to go twice. And the other thing I like to use this for is I like to see what I'm vacuuming up. So for instance, I'm going to vacuum this directly. I want it to have a good fit so you don't lose your attachment. So I might vacuum this directly, and it'll get some of the bigger pieces off, but also because of the pile and the direction of the pile and how the napped surface, it's not going to take everything off. But I would again do the same thing. Go over the surface really methodically in the direction of the pile, so I'm not going against the grain of the textile. Down the surface, hopefully picking up a lot of stuff. And then what I like to do is I check and I see what's coming off. So if I'm losing a whole lot of this like navy blue pile, I know that the pile is weak and either I need to stop or reduce the suction, or sometimes I like to know what kind of dust is in the museum environment, so I might take the dust off of this with a pair of tweezers and maybe analyze it under the microscope to see what kind of surface soiling is accumulating on the textiles. This is a type of fabric that's in a blanket material called, they're sold as Velux blankets, and they're kind of soft and spongy. You can buy these blankets at Walmart or Sears or Penny's. A lot of department stores are online. It's called Velux, it's got a registered trademark, and it's by Martex. Then there might be other similar fabrics, but and we learned about this from conservator Linda Roundhill, and she sent it out to one of the object specialty group lists, and we tried it in our lab, and we really like it for a lot of things. It's not good for everything, but it's good for some things. So the fabric itself has a polyurethane core. It's got a nylon flocking that also has a bit of a direction. So what we've been doing is is covering the head of the upholstery brush, or you can do the dust brush too. Use a binder clip. You can also safety pin it, but actually I think the binder clips are a better idea. Now you've got this as kind of a, it's kind of like a soft brush. All those little pile fibers are going to pick up soiling. You don't need a trap because you have this as your trap. Put that on tightly. And I also think that because of These bristles are nylon. I think there's also a little bit of some kind of static electricity that also helps to pull up, particulate. So this would be for something like this in a warp direction, just to switch from this pile textile to this warp phase textile. So going gently in the direction of the warp, checking to see what's coming off. So this is something that maybe these purple fibers are a lot more fragile than the red and the blue, and you can vacuum down slowly, check to see what's coming off, and you'll be able to see if you're losing any kind of fibers on this on the Velux surface. We used to wash and reuse this material, but we found that if you use it too much, it's not really mechanically strong, and you'll end up losing some of the nylon flocking fibers onto your textile. So you kind of have to make a decision about how important it is to remove soiling that could be damaging your textiles, and if you are okay with maybe ending up with a little bit of nylon flocking on the surface. So it's very soft, but also this can be, depending on the condition of your textile, this might be too aggressive. But also what you can do is, once this part gets soiled, you can take it off, move to a new position, so you have the cleaner Velux, and then re-secure it. So if you have a long enough piece, you can just keep on going. And then when it's soiled all the way through, just throw it away. So not completely sustainable, but good for some conditions. Thank you for listening.